Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Communities Live here on Sheffield Live 93.2 FM. And we have singer Elouise Viola. Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I got to say, I do apologise this morning because we were supposed to have an earlier interview, but we have some gremlins in the system, unfortunately. So sorry about that.
No, don't worry, it happens.
So, for our listeners at home, give us a bit of background. Tell us a bit about yourself.
So my name is Elouise Viola, and I've just released my debut album, which is called Glasshouse. And basically, the album is 13 songs, and it tells the story of kind of my 20s. It's kind of my journey from the very vulnerable, kind of dark times, and it's about resilience, empowerment, and kind of all of the lessons that go with it, and kind of what I've experienced. And it's kind of a big collection of everything that's been going on in my personal life and my music career. And all of my music's really about the way that you speak to yourself is important, and I really hope that this album kind of gives that message.
And I mean, who are your main influences? And also, the second part of this question I want to ask you is if there's anybody that you could work with in the near future, who would it be and why?
Well, I feel it's probably quite a response that you get to this question, which is like I'm influenced from everything. Like I think that's kind of one of the amazing things about Spotify or sort of streaming platforms is that you don't just listen to one artist and you can be introduced to new artists all the time. And I think that anything I hear that I connect with has been kind of an influence. I've loved kind of some of Robin's old stuff, which is kind of like that synthy sound, which I've got in the album quite a lot. That's been a big part of it. I'm also really into like Holly Humberstone and Griff at the moment, so that's kind of been a big influence. And then who would I like to? Well, I actually haven't done any sort of featured tracks or any collabs yet, so I am really excited to kind of do that going forward. Um, I would love to work with a kind of well, I'd like to do a drum and bass track, which is not my normal music, but I just would love to do something like that. I think it would be really fun. But I'd love to do kind of like a rudimental track or something like that. I think that would be definitely up there on my wish list.
Well, you never know who's listening to this interview, so you never know in
You
the near
never
future.
know.
So, I mean, you just mentioned the new album, so it's called Glasshouse. So, tell us a bit more about that. I mean, was it a long process to come for it to come together, or did it come together quite quickly?
Well, it was a kind of different experience in that I didn't sort of begin to I didn't plan to do an album. I
Yeah,
just started writing these tracks and they kind of felt like they really told a narrative that was coming together of like a complete story. And so I had 6 or 7 songs kind of written over the last year or two, and it really felt like a body of work. And that's when we started talking about releasing an album. And then from there, I kind of was like, well, there's a gap in the story there. We need to write something there, and gap there, and a gap here. And so it kind of happened. So I guess really it's about a year, 2 years. But really, I mean, the first song that's on the album to be written was actually written during COVID. So it's like, 3, 4 years ago.
mm,
But it's not like I wrote it and then wrote the rest of the album for the album. It kind of just
sure.
happened.
And I've got to ask, I mean, during COVID times, how do you feel music has changed during that time?
I think, well, I think social media was already a huge part of it, but obviously TikTok has taken off because of the pandemic. And I think that has really changed music. I think that people now not all people, but a lot of music is kind of now written for TikTok. It's that 15 seconds to capture your attention. And a lot of people apparently fans are going to gigs not knowing the rest of the song. They only know that bit that's going viral on TikTok.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been a huge part of it. I think that it's also enabled a massive amount of opportunity, and independent artists are able to kind of m- make a change, and they're able to kind of how and to kind of promote their own music and make a difference with it. And I think that didn't happen before. So I think we're seeing a lot more people rising up and having their own influence and their own unique kind of genre mixes because they're kind of not being forced to go down a certain lane by a record label.
And I mean, during COVID times, a lot of artists were thinking about doing like live performances at their own home or like live venues at an empty stadium. Was that and they were selling it off digitally? Was that
Yeah.
an angle that you were interested in taking?
Yeah, it was difficult. I mean, I'm an independent artist, and so I I've always had a job, and I had a job throughout the pandemic, and I think that for me music was still there, but I also had to do this job because you can't make an income really with the music industry. So I think that was definitely something that I was doing, is looking to different ways to promote yourself and kind of reach different people, and that was definitely a part of it. But I was also working, so like the rest of the world.
And I mean, to our listeners at home who are currently wanting to go into music, what advice would you give to them? And also, how difficult is it?
Um, it is difficult. It's like definitely, I think I didn't quite know when I started out that it's not, you gotta have so much more than just being able to sing or songwrite. It's, because of social media and the way that the industry is, it's a business now. You really have to see it as a business and kind of have a degree of business savvy with it, which has been quite a difficult process. And I think, you get so many no's. And so a big part of that has been being really resilient and learning to kind of, I think a big bit of advice would be to really find out who you are and who you want to be as an artist and what you want to say and what makes you unique. And then I would say try not to let other people's judgment stop you. We've got so access to whoever in the world because of socials, and people can leave comments here and there, and don't let random people steal what you think. You've just got to back yourself and go for it.
And I mean, for our listeners who want to get a copy of your album, uh, it's on digital streaming platforms. But
Yeah.
is there any physical copies that
Yes, I have
people
one
can
right
get?
here. I've got a vinyl, which is so exciting. So, yes, you can get it on vinyl, which is awesome. I never thought I'd have a physical product, but that's been really exciting. Yeah.
And for anybody that wants to follow you on social media, do you have like X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook?
I've got it all. I don't really use X. I think it's a really, really negative place, and so I've kind of tried to move away from it. Hopefully not be on it at all. But yeah, I have absolutely everything. Elouise Viola.
And my final question for you, Eloise, is for our listeners. I mean, because I like to give that the final word to you. Actually, is what would you like
Okay.
to say to our listeners who are listening right now?
Well, go and listen to my album is the biggest thing. It's brand new. It really tells the story of taking some sort of strength from vulnerability. The Glasshouse name was kind of made because glass is it's transparent, but it's also strong. And I think that there's real strength in being prepared to be vulnerable and sharing with people your problems and asking for help. I think that's kind of where the magic is, and that glass house, the house, your mind and your body are your home, your house. And I've really learned to treat it as such. And I hope that the lessons from that album will hope to empower people to empower themselves.
Eloise, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.